Welcome back to another episode of AP Taylor Swift. We are continuing summer school here on the podcast. Last week, we brought a revisit of our Greek mythology episode, and this week, as a follow up, of course, we are going to bring you a revisiting, a re airing of the deep dive on My Tears Ricochet. Don't worry, next week we'll be back with a brand new episode. We like to mix it up here on the podcast this summer, so I hope you enjoy this deep dive on My Tears Ricochet. Welcome to AP Taylor Swift, the podcast for Swifties with English degrees or those who just like to overanalyze everything. I'm Jody.
I'm Jen.
And I'm Monty.
And we are your unofficial professors of Taylor Swift.
Hello and welcome to another episode of AP Taylor Swift. This week we are doing a deep dive, and we are deep diving a fan favorite and podcaster's favorite ourselves, My Tears Ricochet.
Well, first of all, we started to talk about it on last week's episode when it was tied to Greek mythology. Yes. We also talked about it in our anniversary episode. We've linked them both in the show notes, so you can go back and listen to those. But this was a song from Folklore, which came out in 2020. This is track 5 off of Folklore, written by Taylor Swift.
And as always with our deep dives, we will keep in mind as we go through who is the speaker, who are they speaking to, and ultimately what is the purpose of the text. And at the end, we will come back and decide if we all have the same thoughts on the purpose or not. I have no idea with this one, so.
Do we have any initial hypotheses of just what's the image in your head when you hear this song? Because it's so powerful.
It's a great question because, again, I think the image that I have in my head is so tied to how this is performed in the Eyre tour, where it's in, like, the dancers are in these, like, black mourning dresses, and even the visuals that are on screen behind, it's very solemn. It's very, like,
it's a funeral march to start.
Yeah, so which makes sense because there are lyrics in here like if I'm dead to you, why are you at the wake? Like,
yeah.
So that's the image that I have in my head. Is that the image I had in my head before the Eras tour? Maybe because of that line, but I don't know.
I was just gonna say I actually completely forgot what it was at the Eras tour.
You don't watch it on Disney Plus all the time?
I haven't gone around to watching it on Disney Plus yet, but I did always have the funeral thing because of that stanza, the second stanza about the why are you at the wake. So immediately this idea of just an old rich widow for some reason is what I thought, but she's the one that's dead. So I don't know why I thought that.
I don't know if I ever had a purpose going into this without thinking about it in the context of this podcast. However, I will say the Long Pond studio version of this song is my go-to sad song. It is.
When you want to cry, you just put this on?
Yeah, actually, yes, 100%.
I mean, everyone needs a crying playlist.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to know if we had any thoughts going in.
Death, sadness. We gather here, we line up, weeping in a sunlit room. So there's that line, that death funeral march.
The we gather here is also a wedding. Isn't that a thing that people say at weddings?
Mm-hmm.
We're gathered here today.
Yeah.
In holy matrimony.
It reminds me a little bit right off the bat of our conversation around So Long London about how so many of the images there felt churchy, which could go for funeral or wedding. There was kind of both there, and that kind of feels the same way here too. We gather here, we line up. You can think about the bridal party, weeping in a sunlit room. However, people do cry at weddings.
Yeah.
But this is where I've got to look at the music and not just the lyrics. The music is very solemn. That's all I can say about the music because that's all I'm qualified to say.
Yeah, but I'm immediately getting this parallel between something that you say at weddings, which is like there's the thing where the people are only ever gathered at the wedding and at the funeral.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today.
And then you immediately make it somber by being like, oh, but you're at a
funeral. Do they say that at a funeral too, though? Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today.
I think they may say, like, we're gathered here to celebrate the life of someone's name.
And then if I'm on fire, you'll be made of ashes too. Is it a cremation?
If you're going to burn me, oh God, this is going to be like Teenage Pregnancy and Love Story again, isn't it?
It's Here we cremation go. Song.
I'm just asking questions. Some people
You're allowed
get
to ask
cremated.
I see this. This is a really good burn. We talk about Shakespeare. Shakespeare is like a master at
Burn.
insulting. Haha, haha. Yes, you're right. Shakespeare's insults are amazing, and this to me is like a Swiftian insult. If I'm on fire, you'll be made of ashes too.
However, she so many times in other songs references being a phoenix rising from the ashes or come back from the dead. I do it all the time. So if I'm on fire, you'll be made of ashes too. But we know in the wider context of the Taylor Swift cinematic universe, this doesn't mean that it's the end for her. She can die. It doesn't mean it's over.
But it might be an end for
But it might be an end for whoever the you is.
I have another old lore reference of there's an old Indian tale where a woman was given this boon or gift where she could be on fire and then sit with somebody else, like hold them, and then that other person died but she lives. And so I'm also like, if I'm on fire, you're made of ashes too, with the phoenix reference. It's essentially just saying I'm taking you down with me.
Correct.
Yeah,
right.
But I might come back.
But this idea that I might come back at the death, you're all gathered around watching this happen.
Well, the funeral shit continues. Well, not in the next line, but even on my worst day, did I deserve, babe, all the hell you gave me?
I think to me, this is where the song, I mean, we're on line 3, so it's not like it took long. I know, but this is where you start getting to the core of the song of why I think it's such a good sad song for me, because that's a question. Like, imagine
a rhetorical question.
I don't even know. I think you could possibly ask someone this, but to ask someone, even on my worst day, did I deserve all the hell you gave me? So there's an acknowledgement of I've done stuff, but did I ever really deserve the way you treated me?
I deserve this.
That's a gutting question to contemplate.
I'm also now being reminded of witches burning at the stake. We have a witches episode.
This should have been our final exam for this year, because this like brings back all these different things.
I mean, okay, we've got a lot of elements. They're gonna come together. I trust the process.
Trust the process.
Because I loved you. I swear I loved you till my dying day.
References to dying or death. We've got the gathering and weeping in a sunlit room. They're on fire, hell, and dying day.
Well, and then to continue with the potential death, there's something going of I didn't have it in myself to go with Grace.
Right. She's already dead. We already talked about people are at a funeral, but
she's the dead one.
I think this is like an after death reflection, because it's past tense. It says, I swear I loved you till my dying day. She already loved the person until her dying day, which has happened. And then she's saying, I didn't have it in myself to go with Grace. So she's gone.
I have a working theory right now that I might come back to. If we think that the death is metaphorical, which admittedly she's singing, so obviously the literal singer is not dead. However, this is also, I'm thinking of Reputation and what she wrote in the prelude or the poem with Reputation about how there's different versions of yourself with everyone you know, that the version of herself that she was with the died. Taylor. That's dead. Yeah. And so she didn't leave that with Grace. So however that version of herself died, that the death is the death of who she was with that person, which again doesn't have to be romantic. She even says it in Reputation of like, your lover will never know you the same way your mother knows you, and that's normal.
And going with Grace has a positive connotation, therefore not going with Grace, it has a negative connotation. But I would argue that other common phrases that we say is like going guns blazing, like you're going down with the ship, like you're going down, firing, whatever. All of those are also respectable to me if she went down fighting.
Right. Exactly. I didn't go with Grace, and you're the hero flying around. Saving face. Yeah, heroes fly. They have capes. Superman.
Oh, man, I was still in my witch burning line of thought. I was like, on a broom, Harry's flying around.
Heroes. You're the hero flying around saving face.
Unless he's a witch.
Men are warlocks. Like wizards.
That depends on the mythology you're getting into. But anyway.
You're the hero flying around saving face. So you are looking like a hero. Like, I didn't go with Grace, so I went down fighting and not looking good. You're going around looking like a hero to save yourself. So again, whether it's any type of relationship, you're the one that I'm the one that looks bad and you're the one that looks good.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% convinced it was I went down fighting. I think that's a possible interpretation. From my point of view, I could also see it as imagining getting dumped by someone, not even romantically, but a friendship ending or something ending, and you're sobbing uncontrollably,
Yeah, just
and you're
any
very
that's a good point. Just
some
not with
just not with grace. Could be fighting, could have been
right. We
just
don't know.
I am not proud of how I behaved in that moment, which could mean a lot of things.
And if I'm dead to you, why are you at the wake?
Okay, this is the first time that we get that she might not actually be dead, and it is, in fact, a metaphor, even though we knew that. I think it's worth calling out that she's saying now dead to you as opposed to just dead to
Dead
the
in general.
world
Yep.
or
Yes.
that version of her. She may
Correct.
not even be dead to herself. Like she's really just dead to this person.
Right. Which, again, in any sort of end of a relationship, like you're dead to me, it says a lot.
And then the why are you at the wake? In some ways, this takes me back to our Shakespeare episode when I talked about Julius Caesar, the idea of Brutus killing Caesar, but then being sad that Caesar was dead. The complication that comes with that kind of comes in here too.
This
I think.
is a Julius Caesar Brutus song.
Oh my gosh. I actually think that works really well. Oh, okay.
Let's keep going.
Cursing my name, wishing I stayed. Look at how my tears ricochet.
This is Julius Caesar. I love it when we do this. What does it mean, my tears ricochet? Can we...
Okay, I
did want to discuss this, yes.
I did look up the definition. Did you guys also? Like, obviously,
No,
I know.
please go.
Okay, I know what ricochet means, but
I need the words.
you need the words.
You need the words.
So, ricochet, verb of a bullet, shell, or other projectile rebound one or more times off a surface. A bullet ricocheted off of a nearby wall. Or noun, a shot or hit that rebounds one or more times off a surface. She was hit by a ricochet in the legs. So look at how my tears ricochet, I'm assuming is the verb here.
Yeah,
it's like watching what they're doing. But she's basically comparing her tears to bullets.
Oof, I love that.
It also makes me think of another thing we can talk about with ricochet is a sound ricocheting, like an echo or something ricocheting. And later on we have my stolen lullabies. I think there could also be an argument for the sound, the music that is created from the sadness, the tears are ricocheting everywhere. Sometimes an echo, or even just, you walk anywhere you go, you hear this song and it's just bouncing around all around you.
Bouncing around is important because I think another, as I was looking at it, a more colloquial explanation, like a connotation, one way of looking at it could also be not hitting its mark. Like it's not hitting a direct hit. It's bouncing or echoing, like you're saying.
But it's also, I like the idea of a rebound. Like, look at how my tears rebound. Like, my tears, my sadness now caused this rebound effect. And this idea of, like, again, like, if I'm dead, you're cursing my name, wishing I stayed. So something backfired here.
But it seemed to me that it's the cursing my name and wishing I stayed is ironic. It's she's saying, "Why are you here?" Is it fake, or is she saying like this
performative? Is it performative? No, or she's dead. So sad.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because it says he's saving face. Like you're the hero flying around saving face. If you're dead, if I'm dead to you, why are you at the wake cursing my name, wishing I stayed? So I think the question is it genuine emotions that this person's actually sad and now like eating their words, or is it performative? And if that's the case, it changes the meaning of ricochet.
And I think the song is literally asking that question. If I'm dead to you, why are you at the wake cursing my name, wishing I stayed? The song is saying, what? Why? Like, I don't know the answer either.
I think the first question that we saw, did I deserve, babe, all the hell you gave me, is a rhetorical question. I think this question is not rhetorical. If I'm dead to you, why are you at the wake? Why are you here? What are you doing?
The next lines are some of my favorite lines in all of Taylor's songs. So,
well, one thing is, my running theory right now is that it's maybe actually not performative. He's going around saving face, but I think there's maybe some genuine emotions.
Regret. I think there's regret.
Yeah, because when she says, "Look at how my tears ricochet," if they're bouncing back, it must be genuine because her tears were genuine.
I think it's more that my tears ricochet, my tears bounce back, cause some sort of bigger chaos. I don't know. I don't know
Or
yet.
my tears are making you feel guilty. Like my tears are still haunting you.
Yeah, we definitely get haunting imagery. We gather stones, never knowing what they'll mean, some to throw, some to make a diamond ring. To me, this is in
Yeah.
any relationship, not just romantic, in any relationship with a human being, even in this podcast, will we actually do this until we die? Most likely not. So we're doing this incredible thing. We're building, we're gathering stones, but we don't know. We don't know if one of us is, if we have a falling out, if we're going to break up. In any human relationship, you're taking the inherent risk of being vulnerable, knowing that it could go multiple ways.
So for me, this line, so I'm Jewish, and when someone dies in a Jewish tradition, you don't bring flowers to the grave because flowers die. You bring stones, and you put rocks on
Ooh.
the headstone because rocks don't decay. I think
Mm.
that's why you do it. So when I read in this song where we've already have all of this death imagery, we gather stones, never knowing what they mean. It adds this other
Wow.
element of the meaning of a stone.
I had a much more violent version, which was stoning someone.
But I
I
think
was
this just shows which is how you kill somebody.
exactly. I was thinking of kind of the witches thing again. Of I'm
Yeah.
gathering the stone. See, either stone the witch or
It's
a diamond
why
ring, a
this line is
commitment.
perfect. We gather stones never
Never
knowing what they'll
knowing
mean.
what they'll
Here are
mean.
all
Yeah.
these different things that these stones could be. They could be to throw, to kill someone, to show respect and reverence, to ask someone to marry you.
Yeah.
I knew there was
So
another reference, and shout out to our episode last week on Greek mythology. In Cassandra, she has the line, "When the first stone's thrown, they're screaming." I was like, "There's something about
Ooh.
throwing stones in her music." I just couldn't quite remember where it was.
and so throwing stones usually means you're mad at someone, you're condemning them. But
It's
this is
usually murder by mob.
which was lovely. This
Yeah.
is we gather stones though.
Mm-hmm. Which is why I think it's every moment you have in a relationship with someone, you're gathering stones and there's uncertainty
Which way
for
is
a
it going to
while.
go?
Yeah, like the more stones you have, the more diamonds you could have, or the more ammo for someone else to stone you with.
I'm thinking about a glass house too. That the phrase of "don't throw stones from a glass house."
People who live in
Gathering
glass houses
stones.
don't throw stones. Yeah.
Yeah, stones can also be metaphorical for verbal abuse or throwing insults, bringing up baggage and throwing it where it hurts. So gathering, that word gather to me also thinks about like when you get to know a person over time, you're gathering knowledge about them to
Dirt. You're
potentially
gathering
use.
dirt.
Yeah. This also reminds me of the line from Happiness, "When did all our lessons start to look like weapons pointed at my deepest hurt?" That
Ooh,
everything you learn about each other, everything you do together can be transformed into a
you can turn
weapon,
it
that they
around.
know exactly how to point at the thing that will hurt the most because they know that about you. They've gathered enough stones to make it hurt.
You know, I didn't want to have to haunt you, but what a ghostly scene.
Lady Jane Grey. Haunting.
Ooh.
Ooh.
I mean, Jane Eyre, Mad
Yeah.
Woman in the Attic. Actually, that's a really good comparison because I didn't want to have to haunt you. There was some situation, some action, something that kind of forced our protagonist here into this haunting situation. But it's a ghostly scene, which I think the scene we're talking about is still the wake, unless someone
Yeah.
disagrees with
Yeah.
that. Because
Yeah.
at
They're
the wake
ghostly.
again, you wear the same jewels I gave you as you bury me. So we're still at the wake, we're
Right.
still at the funeral, and it's ghostly. What's interesting now that I'm saying those words all together is you wear the same jewels I gave you as you bury me, but what a ghostly scene, as if what the haunting is all of the jewels because they are like the representatives of her. And it makes me think of in a breakup again, any type of breakup, when you have those mementos you still feel haunted by that person, even if they're not
Yeah,
there
they're
with
not
you.
there.
So it's interesting because I tied the haunting to tears ricochet. I said that earlier, but I feel like this confirms that because I didn't want to have to haunt you. Something is haunting this person during this ghostly scene. And she mentioned earlier that look how my tears ricochet. So it feels like there's a connection here between the two again. That
Yeah. And I
those
think
tears bouncing back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I mean
never
the tears
leaving.
could be, I think the tears and the jewels could be metaphors for a similar thing.
That's also true.
I think it's to me I keep going back to like you tried to get rid of me. I deserved better, but I'm not gone. You're at my funeral and I'm still haunting you. I'm still here. You can't get rid of me.
What's changed? Like, why is this person who thought she deserved hell suddenly haunted by her tears?
Because her tears ricochet.
But why? You wear the same jewels I gave you as you bury me is so interesting because as we start to think about who the speakers are,
Right.
like women typically don't give jewels to men.
Well, I don't think it's literal.
Yeah, I
This
don't
is where
either.
I don't take these jewels literally. I think jewels are these same, things that are worthwhile, things that are important, things that are precious, that you still hold on to these things that I gave you that are precious as you put me in the ground. Like you both have what you have in life because of me, but also are getting rid of me. And I think and again, and even in a romantic relationship, if you've been with someone for a long enough time, they've become who they are in part because of being with you, and yet they don't want to be with you anymore.
Okay, walk with me for a second because I know it says the word babe earlier, so we were like thinking it's a romantic relationship, but I'm like, what if the person?
I'm not necessarily thinking it's a romantic
No.
relationship.
Well, I'm like, what if the person being buried is like a mother or a relative? What if it's a different relationship other than just romantic? Because even if the jewels wasn't totally literal, I think this idea of we gather stones, not knowing what they mean for different various things. Why would person A give person B jewels and as that they would potentially wear? Like, what if you have a deep regret for losing somebody, but you only realize it after they're gone?
Yeah.
And I feel like it could maybe be a family relationship.
Yeah, the jewels to me, I really don't think it's necessarily literal, but I think of, for example, let's say I'll make it a work song. Beat you to it, Jody. Let's say we're all marketers here. Let's say we started at our job an incredible program, some sort of a webinar series or something that was just generating insane amounts of leads. And then we were treated horribly and we left. And then after we left, they still have this series. They still have
taking
all
credit for your work.
the fruits of our labor.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh man, such a bummer she's gone. And it's like, bro, I'm gone because of you and your behavior. That's why I'm gone.
Mm-hmm. We tend to talk about this in terms of Taylor because just like easier as like a speaker singer. But when I heard this song, I've always assumed it's about a relationship.
Yeah.
Without
Which
really getting
can
into
be.
it.
Like it's
But
what it means
kind
to
of
you.
well, I guess what I'm saying
kind?
is what kind of relationship is like now where I'm like, oh, I always just assumed it was a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
But I'm like, maybe it's not I actually
Doesn't have
really
to
like
be.
I really like the work thing because the jewels can be like accolades.
We talked about this in our anniversary episode when we went over the bridge, and I read a passage from New York Times journalist from the Daily, Taffy Brodesser, actor, and how she hears this song and thinks about a toxic workplace. And so I don't think that this needs to be just one. It could be romantic.
Yeah.
It could be career. It could be a friendship that you ended. It could be familial. And through the deep dive, to me, this analysis is less about which type of relationship it is it, and more about what is it saying about the relationship. That's what's more important.
No,
to
I
me.
I agree with you. I think it's just even like the words that are being used though, like what are the different possibilities
Right.
of what it could be. I think it's still worth considering because I guess for me personally, I had never really even considered those in the past.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm going back for just a second. Why I like the we gather stones never knowing what they mean, because to be human is to take risks.
Right.
And I think what that line is cutting to in an incredibly beautifully poetic way is to those risks of any human interaction you have.
Yeah.
Even the person at the coffee shop, I would argue, maybe has one stone because I've talked to them a couple of times because I'll go the same, at a regular time.
Yeah.
But the person I'm married to has a lot of stones, and one stone's going to do way less damage than a house load of stones. And so I think it cuts right to the core of that risk and the decisions you make every single day to hand out more stones, essentially. I think that metaphor when I think of things that have hurt me, it's mostly work and friends. I've been very, very fortunate.
It's
And
also that the people who are closest to you have the ability to cause the
exactly.
most pain.
Yeah. And we don't talk about it. I would think we are more, but your workplace has some of the biggest way to hurt you. Even if you aren't telling them your deepest, darkest secrets, it's a lot of time you spend with those people.
It's your
Even
living.
virtually. That's a lot of stones that can build up. And it can hurt.
Anyway, on that note.
Are we ready for this bridge?
Well, no, because we have one line in the chorus that is different.
Oh. Okay.
So it's, I didn't have it in myself to go with Grace because when I'd fight, you used to tell me I was brave. So in the previous
work song.
or toxic relationship.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like a mother-daughter relationship.
It could be so many.
But yeah, it could be so many things. But I love this idea of like when I'd fight.
Gaslighting. This is gaslighting.
Or even saying like, I want this like back and forth. I want to know what you think. But then at some point it was suddenly not okay to be doing that anymore. We might all just be revealing a lot about ourselves of what we are seeing in this song.
That is 1,000% what we do.
We have experienced.
That is 1,000% what we do.
I feel like the song is an extreme version of it because the song is just, here's a toxic relationship. And we're like, obviously it's about this.
I think that's the point. And that's the point of poetry though. Like, right. You go through and be like, what are the words and devices that kind of unlock these emotions?
It's why this song is a fan favorite because it hits to the core in a certain way for everybody. It's not hitting to the core because of what it means to Taylor and why she wrote it, which we'll get to, I think in the bridge. It's because it has this universal resonance. She's a basic savant, as DJ Louie said.
Going back to our two speakers, like we have an I, we have a you, as we have in many songs. And I'm like, here's what I know about you, right? About the you character. The person,
they suck.
They're at the wake. They suddenly feel guilty. They're wearing jewels, whatever the jewels may be. They wished hell on the person on I. And probably undeservedly, and then also told that person that they were brave. So you guys are interpreting that as gaslighting. I'm like, I guess I'm not sure if it's gaslighting, but I was wondering if it's like, was there some respect there, but it was just like a toxic, like maybe they did actually genuinely think that the person was brave, but also
I don't think
what they got.
I don't think it had to be gaslighting to start, but it's clear that at some point those fights were no longer considered brave. To me, the only thing that feels very clear to me in this line is that there was some sort of a power dynamic that was happening.
You're brave for fighting. Like, oh, you're gonna put up a fight against me? You must be really brave.
And to be fair,
like that's how
this line doesn't specifically say when I'd fight you. You used to tell me I was brave. It was just when I would fight.
Yeah.
And that's where I was like, is it kind of respectful? Like the person did actually respect person one, but
I don't think so, because I always like to look at the line it's replacing. So in the first chorus, it's and you're the hero flying around saving face.
Yeah.
So that was a very negative way to describe this person, that you're acting like a hero, but you're just trying to save your own reputation. Love to bring in the word reputation here. And so in this one, I think there's likely to be a parallel in what she's trying to say about the person. So it's likely to be negative or it's likely to be something that could be a positive, but actually is a negative, which in this case would be, oh, when we'd fight, you'd tell me I'm brave, which could be positive, but actually what you were saying was, how dare you try and fight this?
I think I see it differently. I don't think that that's a wrong interpretation. I think of the fact, and this is just kind of true, that often the things you really love about people also become the things that start to really annoy you about those people.
Yeah.
I'm very open about this, and I love my husband very much. He's a very thoughtful person, and I love that deeply, but it also means he takes a long time to make decisions sometimes, and that drives me insane as well. And that there's some sort of a power dynamic here where the person's like, I love it when you fight, that there's something, but it also could be that like that was something.
Don't fight it.
Yeah, that the person was like, oh my gosh, I love that you fight, and then a year later was like, could you stop? with these fights.
Yeah.
Like, this is so many
Let it
fights.
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm like very intimidated by this bridge.
We've discussed it.
Yeah, but
We've done this bridge before, so I think it's more like, does it
Yeah.
change?
it's just such a punch.
Ready? With everyone have their capes? And I can go anywhere I want, just not home. And you can aim for my heart, go for blood, but you would still miss me in your bones. And I still talk to you when I'm screaming at the sky. And when you can't sleep at night, you hear my stolen lullabies.
I know we talked about the lullabies and Taylor's Masters previously, so I don't know if we need to go into that too deeply again.
Yeah.
However, I think one thing we didn't do when we just talked about the bridge and its isolation was the hauntingness of that, of the idea of when you can't sleep at night. So it's at night that you hear my stolen lullabies. That's a very haunting thing. It actually makes me think of the Phantom of the Opera, how she hears the Phantom like at night singing to her, and she's haunted by this Phantom of the Opera. You know, that there's something if you are hearing, even metaphorically, it's if your brain is stuck on something at night, like someone's in there, they've gotten under your skin, they're haunting you, you can't get rid of them.
We also, because we just did the bridge in isolation last time, you missed the connection to the rest of the song and the death imagery. So go aim for my heart, go for blood, miss me in your bones, when we've already talked about being buried and awake and a ghostly scene and a haunting. Like, it all ties back to this death imagery.
Even the term ricochet, when taken in the context of not hitting the aim, it's missing the mark. I think we all love the play on words that she's done here with aim for heart, go for blood, but miss me, also miss me like I'm missing you. I think the idea that her tears are ricocheting and not quite hitting the aim.
There's something that's going all over the place and rebounding. You didn't have
They're both firing shots at each other, and neither of them are really hitting, but death still happened.
Yeah. But this is where you would still miss me in your bone. So maybe that goes back to why this person's at the wake wishing I'd stayed. And when you can't sleep at night, and you hear my stolen lullaby. So, like, again, you tried to get rid of me, you tried to distance yourself, yet you're here and you can't get rid of me. I talk to you and you hear me.
It also reminds me in some ways of he never thinks of me except for when I'm on TV. I never think of him except for on midnights like this. This sort of
I love that. The yearning.
Yeah, there's this disconnect. There's lack of a physical connection, but there are still they're both haunted in those different moments.
Very deep yearning.
And we talked about home. The idea of home. And is that a place? Is that a person? I don't think there's an answer here.
I think I'm more sold on the person theory after going through this, but I don't think it's the only theory by any means.
Yeah. I think this, because this whole song is so deeply about a relationship of some sort, it makes a lot of sense that this person represents home.
It's like no matter where they will be, they will never feel at home.
Yeah, they'll never feel at home because this person is where, or this, person represents that feeling of safety.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of stuck on, I still talk to you when I'm screaming at the sky.
Yeah, that seems like an odd line out.
I read it as the protagonist is still quite angry, and that I guess it doesn't have to be at night, but because we get sleep at night for the next one, what I'm imagining is that middle of the night you're falling asleep and you're like, I'm still really pissed off about this.
You can't get over it. You can't get over it.
Yeah, there's no closure.
We've also talked about this screaming at the sky a few times in many of her songs, where it's I think almost always been tied to Mad Women. It's this idea of howling at the moon, like screaming at the sky, just something unleashed, uncontrollable,
feral.
And so I'm getting a little bit of this insanity kind of reference of I still talk to you.
But the screaming is also like the antithesis of a lullaby. Those are pretty opposite.
Yeah. Well, I think then the side by side there was a lullaby that was stolen, which is now no longer accessible.
Yeah.
So all she has is screams.
When I hear stolen lullabies, I think of the Little Mermaid.
Oh, that's a great
Aw.
comparison.
The voice.
That's a great one.
The voice that's taken. It's like you sell
Yeah, she
something,
took
yeah,
her
you give
voice.
away or you trade something really, really precious.
I actually really like that comparison too, because the idea of screaming at the sky is not communicating anything. So her voice is stolen, and we never see Ariel scream at the sky because she can't. But it's the same futility of
Yeah.
attempting to communicate, but it's not going to go anywhere.
And that works because, and I still talk to you, like, it's futile to
Yeah.
probably talk to this
Yeah.
person.
And
Like, this is a relationship that is not repairable, so still talk to you when I'm screaming at this guy, like, that it goes nowhere.
I like the futile because it also gets to the madness. It's like, I know it's not doing anything. I know it's not worth doing it, but I do it anyways because I can't stop.
Which I think, to me, connects back to, like, why this person's at the wake. It's like, it doesn't do anything, but I can't stop. Like, I can't, like, I'm here and I don't know why. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to bring you back. It's not going to repair the relationship. Yet here I am, and that's why she's like, why are you here? Because like, what's done is done.
Well, let's maybe move into the last section, because she revisits some of the stuff from the beginning of the song, but I think we do get some turns because we're post-bridge here.
We've moved on we're off the bridge.
I didn't have it in myself to go with grace. I'm just going to read the whole thing. It's like 8 lines, but I'm just going to read it.
Please do.
I didn't have it in myself to go with grace, and so the battleships will sink beneath the waves. You had to kill me, but it killed you just the same. Cursing my name, wishing I stayed. You churned into your worst fears, and you're tossing out blame, drunk on this pain, crossing out the good years. God damn, this is so intense. And you're cursing my name, wishing I stayed. Look at how my tears ricochet. Like, I know that was intense, but just reading it out loud, I was just like, oh, it was just like punch in my gut.
There is a lot in the subtlety here. We obviously have I didn't have it in myself to go with grace. That's repeated. Battleships sink beneath the waves. Both ships, multiple battleships have been
Multiple,
hit.
who knows how
we
many.
don't know how many, but they have all been hit.
So it's futile.
Futile.
The fighting, it sinks. All that fighting.
Yeah, they're going down.
No one won.
Yeah.
No one wins here.
You had to kill me, but it killed you just the same.
But it killed you just the same. Nobody wins.
The killed you just the same, clearly nobody wins. But why would somebody, like, why is it like you had to kill me?
Well, Harry Potter had to kill Voldemort.
Neither can live while the other survives.
Correct.
I mean, to me, that's kind of going back to the you told me I was brave thing, where it's like something that was good turns bad. You can keep fighting and it's so brave, but at some point you're like, this thing has got to stop. You had to cut the cord. You had to end. It was a toxic thing that just had to.
It couldn't keep going. And
it couldn't keep going.
It also makes me think a little bit more on the sincerity side when it comes to the questions earlier of like, why are you here? That there was some sincerity, that you had to kill me, that something happened. It had to end, but that doesn't mean it had to end. It clearly ended violently. There were battleships, there was death, but there's sadness about the ending, or I think regret's a better word than sadness, but maybe some sadness, but definitely regret of how it all went down, basically.
Maybe regret of how it all went down, but I do think there are relationships that have to end. It doesn't mean you're happy.
Right. I don't mean regretting that it ended. I mean just like a looking back and being like, wow.
Of how it ended. Yeah.
That went poorly.
Poorly. Yeah, exactly. And so that when I hear you had to kill me, but it killed you just the same, it was like, this had to end, but it doesn't mean that you were like victorious and happy about it. Like, this was bad for all around. Cursing my name, wishing I stayed. I think that is the interesting line. Wishing I stayed.
Did she say that earlier? She says something about something about staying earlier. Yeah, cursing my name, wishing I stayed is in the second section too. So that's repeated, which is interesting.
But it feels different.
It does. It totally feels different. I love that when it's repeated, but now we have more information.
Yeah, like wishing I stayed in the first one comes out after if I'm dead to you, why are you at the wake, cursing my name, wishing I stayed. To me, I read that there as like wishing I was still alive. But here it's Oh, maybe it's the same. You had to kill me, but it killed you just the same, cursing my name, wishing I stayed, but we know who caused the death.
I almost read this as the cursing her name and wishing she stayed is what killed the other person in some ways. I don't know if that's
Oh,
totally fair, but just
interesting.
reading that like grammatically, so you had to kill me, but it killed you just the same, cursing my name, wishing I stayed.
You turned into your worst fears, so maybe killing me is what turned you into your worst fears.
Yeah, that like cursing the name, wishing they stayed is like what killed the other person.
Is this still the bridge? Because this is more powerful than the bridge.
Well, we've also already discussed the bridge, which is probably part of it.
This is maybe one of
That's
those
true. That's true.
bridges to nowhere where it just bridge just takes us home.
Yeah, which I love a good bridge to nowhere.
I feel like there's something here that I never would have thought of until we went through this, that there's so much conflict, but it feels like the sitting in the conflict is what was like the final death blow in some ways. That they were constantly aiming for each other. They were in battleships. The tears were ricocheting. All of this stuff that and the regret of how it all went down, that if they had, whatever the situation, there had been a cleaner cut earlier, that wouldn't have necessarily ended in death. But the constant fighting, the constant refusal to cut that cord, to continue screaming, to continue hearing the lullabies, is what seems to be the most deathly.
And that ties to the didn't have it in myself to go with grace. I think
Yes.
that exit, the not going with grace, was part of the problem, perhaps. Like, because this person could not go with grace, had to be killed, cursed the name, wished I'd stayed, didn't want it to come to that, but because it just couldn't, because that person could not stop fighting, could not go with grace, that's kind of what resulted in this situation.
Well, and then the next line after you turn into your worst fears is, and you're tossing out blame, drunk on this pain. Like, this pain is now like addictive, that it's something that they're really stuck in.
Okay, I think I figured out the tears ricochet meaning. I think the tears ricochet is actually referring to the not going with grace period. I think the not going with grace was a tearful mess of an exit. And I think the ricochet is referring to the wounds that happen as a result of that. So because this person could not go with grace, because they went screaming, kicking, crying, that resulted in essentially the shots just bouncing off everywhere, ended up killing the other person in the process. Like, the person had to end the thing. Both battleships were wounded. Everyone got hurt in the process. And those ricocheting tears is what it kind of caused the mess.
And then the next line is crossing out the good years. So those tears ricocheting, all of this fighting erased the good parts. So there were good years. Good.
Yeah.
But they're completely erased now because of what happened.
Yeah.
I love that you brought up happiness earlier, Jen, because this is almost the opposite to happiness, where happiness is also about the end of a relationship, but it's acknowledging that there was happiness. There'll be happiness after you, but there was happiness because of you too. Both of these things can be true. Whereas my tears ricochet is the end. It's just, we've crossed out the good years. We're only focusing on how poorly this shit went down. And that we can't even think about what good came of this relationship, whatever type of relationship it was.
I think I have my purpose, but I don't know if you two are there yet.
I'm trying to figure out just one line, and that is the "why are you at the wake" question, because I'm like, if the tears ricochet and the exit is what caused this mess, I think the opening of the person asking, like, did I deserve all this hell and why are you at the wake, is I'm almost leaning into, like, how can you not resent me is the question. Like, why are you at the wake is like, after everything that I put you through.
I have a counter argument.
Yeah, I do too. Go ahead.
So if at the end of this we're thinking that one of the biggest problem, what erased the good years, was the constant battling back and forth, perhaps the question of why you're at the wake is, why are you here again? Like, we're dead, it's over, you should be gone. You should not be engaging in anything. Like, we cannot do this anymore.
Yeah, okay, that is actually, it's not a counter, that's actually kind of what I was saying, because it's like, why are you still here? Like,
stop
how
coming
do you
around.
not resent
Stop.
me?
We are never, ever, ever getting back together. Like, ever.
Awake, you go to Awake to pay respects for the dead. And
Right.
there is no respect in this relationship. So why are you here? There's no knife you could dig in any deeper. This is over. We've erased you've cursed my name. You've crossed out the good years. Neither of us won. There's no saying sorry here. There's no saying sorry.
This is going to make it work again, but it reminds me of when I got laid off and then I posted about getting a new job a couple months later, and the CEO of the company that laid me off liked my post about getting a new job. And I was like, bro, read the room. Please don't do this. Like, thank you for celebrating me. You're saving face, but I have this job because
you're the hero flying around saving face. The definition of that.
Okay.
Well,
I think I have my purpose too. Yeah.
Should we rock, paper, scissors to see who goes first?
I can go first. I think mine is slightly different from you guys's, but really close. But like, I think we're like 90% there, but I'm ending up somewhere slightly different. I'm seeing this song as a little bit of the speaker who's talking in first person, kind of owning their flaws and their mistakes, and like recognizing that they were the problem. They probably didn't deserve the hell on the worst day, so they're asking for a little bit of sympathy. But I kind of see it, the my tears ricochet, as being like, look at this mess I caused when I could not go. Like, I didn't have it in me to go with Grace because I didn't feel like I deserved this, but it caused this entire mess. You got hurt in the process. You're dead. We're dead. Everyone's dead. And just, how do you not hate me? Like, how are you still here? It's like it's like this very tragic ending because one person spiraled out of control and left. The other person had to kind of cut the cord just to survive, but ended up dying in the process. And that person is still there because no matter how much they try, they can't hate the person. And I think the speaker is just like in awe of that. And it's just like, why are you still here? How can you be here?
I'm pretty different. I don't think the speaker is in awe of the person. I think for me, I appreciate. This is what I love. I love. I'm like, oh, okay, you see it.
It's my favorite when ours are really different. That's, I think, the most fun.
Yeah,
because to me, this song is, there's still so much anger and like, just there's so much anger here, and that my tears, which should be sadness, ricochet into anger, resentment, harm, and that they've become so much more powerful than just deep and utter sadness about the end of this relationship, whatever kind of relationship this is. There is resentment. There is a lot of, I don't think that this person has awe or empathy for whoever they are in the relationship with. I think they're still just so angry and upset. And I think the purpose of this song is to kind of just try and process a lot of that anger and verbalize that, like, yeah, I didn't have it in myself to go with Grace because this was really hard and it wasn't, and I don't think I deserved the way I was treated. And neither of us won here, but I wasn't going with Grace, and that's okay. So I think there's a bit more ownership, but not respect or reverence for the other person that could, like, that's on the other side of this. I actually think there's still a lot of resentment for the other person, entity. I do still think that what I love about this song is the universality, that because of the line, and when you can't sleep at night, you hear my stolen lullabies. I believe this song was written about Taylor Swift and her masters, but the universality of this song to be about a bad relationship, whether that's romantic or friendship or your own career, I think that's the real purpose of this song, is to like process any of those toxic bad endings in a very, I don't know if it's cathartic, because I still think there's anger. I go back to Jen, you saying that like this is on your like when I want to cry playlist, because you do just you're still feeling the emotions. It's not, you're not over it yet when through this
yeah,
song.
I think maybe awe wasn't the right word, but I'm thinking like disbelief of like, why are you still here when everything is said and done? It's a little bit of like, this is like the messiest of all endings of all messes. Like, why are you still here? Like, how do you, I don't know.
Well, and I think some of the universalness of it, which I guess we can get into my purpose too, is like, yeah, the Stolen Lullabies is maybe a pretty direct reference from Taylor. However, she probably is pulling from a lot of her different experiences to write these things, you know, like,
exactly.
and that is
right.
I said this in our guest episode with DJ Louie, that I think she in some ways takes from the greatest actors, where when something you experience, you use that when you're acting. So it's not necessarily that every situation you are as an actor you've lived before, but it's like, oh, I need to feel heartbreak here. Okay, let me remember what it felt like when I did heartbreak and apply it in this situation. And that is what makes things so universal. My interpretation is honestly very deeply personal. All of the work stuff, it just worked really well as we were going through it, and I've just been reflecting on this lately. I had a job many years ago, which really no one who listens to this would be surprised by this news. They were all there, where it was started out as like one of the best jobs ever, to this day still one of the best jobs I ever had. Just loved everyone. It was such a great culture, everything was good. And then they were acquired by a private equity firm that just gutted the culture, everything. It got so bad so fast. And it makes me think of that, because even to this day, it's been many years since I worked there. I'll see stuff and I'll be like, oh, I helped do that, or I was a big part of that project, and they're still benefiting from it. But they also refused to give me the promotions I deserved. And I found out that they were paying my male counterpart who had less experience more money than me. And just some of that like corporate kind of nonsense, that some of it was probably happening, but with the change of ownership, there was a clear pivot in culture. And what when it's like, you killed me, but it killed you just the same. Like, the way I was treated, I left, but then I also helped several people find new jobs. Like, I was a reference for other people. There were very, very few people at that company now who built that company, because it just gutted the culture. The company is not dead, but in a lot of the ways, what it was, that I can go anywhere I want, but not home. Like, that place was so important to me. Some of my best friends today I met at working that job, because it was truly a great culture, and it's gone forever. Like, I can never go back to that, because that's not the way the company is. But it's been really top of mind for me, because I really like my job now. Shout out to my teammates, I love you all. And it's good. Everything is going well, but I have this like underlying anxiety constantly of like, well, when's it gonna die? When is it gonna die? And like, I don't know, maybe it won't, maybe it will, who knows what the future holds. But reflecting the song again, like how the song really reflects to you what you're feeling. As we talked about, I was feeling deeply of like, oh my gosh, like I still feel that pain, I still feel that, because I'm feeling that anxiety now that comes from the loss that I felt. Like, it was truly felt like a loss of, this was an incredible group of people, an incredible job, and I'll never have it again, because, and then you had to kill me kind of thing of like capitalism. Like, someone bought it and they wanted to grow the company, and the way that they could do that, in their opinion, was by just gutting the culture and changing everything and kicking out all of the leadership, replacing everybody. You know, in their mind, they had to do it because that was the way to make money.
It's a work
I
song.
do think that the emotions are so powerful that it feels like it can't be just a romantic relationship. Like, it feels to me like it has to be something like work, or like a familial relationship, or something like almost bigger than.
If it is, it's a very deeply like a divorce, or just like a very big, like, this is not a crush. This is not a like,
I feel like it's
light. This is not light. This is heavy. This is deep.
I feel like it is, and this is why it's my sad song, because I've definitely listened to it when I've been sad about other things. Like, my main interpretation is that whatever loss you were feeling the most acutely in that moment is what this song is about.
Yeah, like the most profound loss, like something very deep.
So, Monza, you're happy in your relationship because this doesn't.
Well, no, I mean, I think the divorce one makes sense, but something more permanent,
like,
I guess, is like something that's more integral to your personality. It's like losing a part of yourself, right? And
which I think some romantic relationships absolutely
like
can.
I think it could be in that sense, but I'm also thinking of like a job is like your identity, or like if there's like when I say familial relationship, like that could mean your spouse, like but it's like something like family, like is like an unconditional, you cross over into that.
Or like a best friend that like you've been with for your entire life, and then you're like, I don't understand how this happened.
Like I'm thinking something that's got crossed over into unconditional territory where it becomes a part of your very being. It's a very deep kind of relationship.
Yeah, it's I like the point you made about the identity. It is something that when you lose it, you're like, oh, that is no longer a descriptor I have for myself. I am no longer, when people ask, like, oh, like, who are you? What do? You often will talk about your job, where you work, your family members, the people closest to you. Like, it's that list if someone's introducing themselves to you and is like, hey, this is the summary of who I am. The things that make that list are probably the things that this song would resonate with if you lose it.
Which is why I think like divorce works, because it's like such a part of your identity once you're like married to a spouse. But just another relationship where you have been dating somebody, like I don't think that quite.
Yeah, this isn't a 6-month breakup. This is a 16-year breakup if it's romantic.
It's another reason with this as a career song why it's a good reminder to not let your corporate job be your identity. Please find hobbies and purpose and meaning elsewhere outside of your full-time job, because they don't last forever, because capitalism.
Yeah. It wasn't even for my job that it was the identity that I lost. It was that I got to go to a place every day with people who truly became my real life best friends, which they outlasted the job. Like, it was worth it. It paid off. But man, the extrovert in me misses 40 hours a week just hanging out with my best friends.
To your point, there's so much time of your life invested, like a third of your life, that how can it not be a huge part, right?
Yeah. Speaking of a lot of time in our lives.
On that charming note. Thanks for joining us. Like, subscribe, follow, do all the things if you're interested in staying in touch.
That's all we have for you today on AP Taylor Swift. Be sure to rate and review us on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on social at AP Taylor Swift to stay up to date, and join us next time as we overanalyze and deep dive into the next Taylor Swift song on AP Taylor Swift.